A very good evening to everyone here today. My name is Zainab Idris. I am today's moderator. I'm extremely pleased to welcome all of you to our very first Authors Saga session. We are now live on Facebook and we have individuals joining in from several different countries, such as Sri Lanka, India, Singapore, UK, and many other countries. Let's start by having a quick introduction on Pick a Book. So Pick a Book encourages the habit of reading by getting all participants to select a book, read and research on it thoroughly, and present a summary, which also helps to hone his or her public speaking, reading and communication skills. By doing this, Pick a Book not only inculcates the habit of reading, but also helps to impact a wealth of knowledge. Currently, Pick a Book has marked its inspiring presence in over 4 countries, namely Sri Lanka, India, the UK, and Singapore, in just the span of 1 year. We have over 600 plus readers in 18 regions, and we have over 30,000 people inspired. Pick a Book is continuing to spread its wings across the whole globe. So, Pick a Book has basically formed a new initiation. This is called the Authors Saga. Through these sessions, authors will be able to reach their readers and individuals with like-minded interests. Authors can also discuss the key insights of their books, and viewers will be able to take key takeaways from this. We hope to help the authors to inspire fellow readers and also aspiring authors on their own journeys. These will be aspiring sessions with authors to ensure that they gain a wider reach and encourage individuals to further their reading habit. So, without any further ado, I'm extremely thrilled to welcome our guest for this evening, Paul Cork, who currently resides in the UK. So Paul Cork is an author, speaker, and a futurist. He is the founder of Paul Cork International, Leadership, Architecture, and the Mindset Journal Company. He is the #1 health and wellness thought leader and influencer on Thinkers 360 leaderboard of 2021. Paul is the author of 3 books currently on mindset, with most recently acclaimed Reframe Your Mindset and Redefine Your Success. Paul has completed 30 years of research into what makes people successful and has also interviewed many successful people to identify what he calls the mindset equation for success. This has culminated in his Reframe Your Mindset for Success system. The system includes his book, mindset assessment, online courses, podcast, mindset journals, and coaching. Paul is also an international speaker who talks extremely passionately about mindset and the future of leadership in his keynote, motivational, and after-dinner talks. After 25 years in his corporate world, mainly in organizational and leadership development roles, Paul, through leadership architecture, provides organizations with innovative mindset and leadership thinking. He is also a protagonist for Business for Good. So when he does business, he changes lives in the world through the B1G1 platform and is one of the very first B1G1 speakers for good in the world. So let's welcome Paul.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Paul. How are you today?
Hi. Yeah, great. Thank you. How are you today?
Awesome. So Pick a Book team personally would like to thank you for being the very first author to join us on the Authors Saga. And we are more than delighted to have you here with us today to discuss the journey of yourself and of your book. So today, the book we are discussing is Paul's outstanding book, Reframe Your Mindset, Redefine Your Success.
Absolutely. It's great to be here. Looking forward to it.
All right. So, Paul, actually, before we dive straight into this book, I would just like to ask you what actually has inspired you to write a book like this?
You know, from when a very young age, I always wanted to write. If I was to sum it up in three things and then explain them, the first one would be it's a expression. So I'm an ideas person. I just have lots of ideas, very, very, and I used to basically paint and draw and write poetry. Ideas used to come to me, and I guess the inspiration for writing a book when I was young was all to do with fantasy fiction books, because I used to read Lord of the Rings and books like that. And eventually,
Awesome.
I matured a little bit and started reading philosophy and psychology. And philosophy and psychology really, really inspired me to think about ideas. Then it got me to think about how I could then share ideas. So I guess the expression was about, for me, sharing ideas. Initially, that's why I wanted to write a book. I'm then doing an awful lot of research. It was about, for me, then helping people. So how can I write a book that could actually help people? And my real passion was around mindset and happiness and being your personal best, what makes you successful. So obviously I've done a lot of research about that since then. But that was the other reason, so to help people. And the third reason I'd give is this particular book, the reason that I wrote it is that I published 2 books previously on mindset. And this book was an idea that I'd been thinking about for a long time. And
Okay.
sadly, my father, my dad passed away back in 2016. And I went to his funeral. And when I went to his funeral and saw the legacy, the amount of people there, and the legacy that he left, it made me realize that I should think about my own legacy, and that this book that I was going to write really was going to be part of that. So I guess my third reason was about leaving a legacy. And the fourth reason was then, can I take all of that and do some good in the world with it? So that would probably be at the end of the day, being able to do something that you love. So maybe
Yeah.
if I write this book, then I could turn it into a business and
Yeah.
make this what I do for a living. So that would be the reason, 4 good reasons for writing a book.
Yeah, that's actually just fantastic. I love the whole holistic idea about just wanting to help people through your books and your writing. I love that. That's amazing. Okay, so moving on to our second question. So the title of your book is actually very much appropriate for the times we are living in now, and with everything going on. Was that intentional? Did you intend to make it that way?
Well, let's put it this way. I didn't know that we were going to have a global pandemic, so that was something that I didn't foresee in the future right now. But the book itself, it was actually based on it. If you think about the future that we're moving into, one of the chapters in the book that I talk about is called the burning platform. Now, the burning platform, and this was before we had pandemic and lockdown,
Yeah.
it's all about exponential change in the world. There's that much change happening, and the rate of technological change that's going to happen, now and in the future, and it's happening right now because of everything that's going on, is that what actually brought you success in the past is not going to be guaranteed in the future, because the world's changing that fast and we've got to keep pace with it. So when I was thinking about the title for the book's actually about the mindset equation for success. And it was going to be called the mindset equation, but then really thinking about all those changes going on in the world, it seemed appropriate to then retitle it to reframe your mindset because
Of
of all the
course.
changes that, yeah. And then when you think about it, is that the one thing we have control over is the way that we respond to change and our mindset and how we reframe our mindset. So that's why I ended up calling it Reframe Your Mindset. And then actually then the pandemic happened. So it's very, very apt. We're all going
Yeah.
through mindset change and mindset shift at this moment in time with everything that's going on in the world. So what more apt title than Reframe Your Mindset?
Yeah, I agree, because I mean these days especially change is just inevitable. So it depends on us how we perceive it and how we choose to go forward with it. Okay, great. Okay, so you actually mentioned, and we also researched a little bit, that you have done 30 years of research. So can you actually talk to us a little bit about the research you have completed and how it actually helped you to write this book?
Yeah, absolutely. So I go back, 30 years is a long time. So I haven't been
A long
researching,
time.
experimenting in all of that time. But what it's been is that if I go back to when I was young, so I had a real passion for philosophy and psychology. And that was with the philosophy, both Eastern and Western philosophy, and bringing that together. And then at a young age, I discovered what I call the motivational gurus, which were at the time Brian Tracy, it was Anthony Robbins and Stephen R. Covey. And they were, for me, the pioneers of positive psychology. I mean, positive psychology now is so widespread, but back then it wasn't. And they based their work on the likes of Napoleon Hill, and the likes of William Carnegie, and the likes of Charles Hannell, and also William Wattles. And the work that they did, which was moving into the turn of the 20th century, it's just amazing, the work that they did on the mind and developing your mindset. But I do think that at a young age, I was so invested in learning all about that. And then what happened is my career, basically in the corporate world, was always to do with what was coaching, training, leadership development, learning development, organizational effectiveness. And during that career, what I've been able to research is obviously speaking with CEOs, with executives, with senior leaders, and understanding what really makes people successful. So it kind of, that research was quite natural. But then I was also very fortunate to work with a lot of very successful speakers. And those very, very successful speakers, a lot of them I was able to interview as well. So as part of that research and work over that period of time, it then culminated, as you mentioned a little bit earlier, in my mindset equation for success. So that's the research that I've done. Obviously, done a lot of research into, the philosophies, but also the concepts, but also the data that backs up positive psychology as well at the same time.
All right. So ever since your corporate career started, you've been kind of into the leadership and the speaking, that journey, is it? And that has also helped, carry out your research for your book as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That is it.
Awesome.
Just learned so much.
Okay, so actually we have a few comments popping up here. So just through this live, everyone's just saying inspiring, and there's a great read. So yeah, that's awesome to see, and fantastic book, thought-provoking book. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so yeah, moving on. So the fourth question that I have for you is, the book is actually based around what you call the mindset equation for success. So can you just briefly tell us what that is? A quick glimpse of what that is?
Yeah, so the mindset equation itself, it's basically simple steps that we can all follow with drive and determination in the form of an equation to be successful. So when I think about the mindset equation, the research that I did, the first part of the mindset equation is that we find that the most successful people obviously love doing what they do. So they're very passionate and they love what they do. And that's the first important part of the equation. There's then 6 key mindset indicators that we then add, and the mindsets in themselves. And the first one is a mindset of aspiration. The second one is one of self-belief. The third one is of drive and motivation. The fourth one is emotional intelligence, because they will have a support network and the right people around them and be able to build effective relationships. The fifth one is resilience. And then the sixth one is learning agility. And then what we do is we times that by an adaptable growth mindset. And then there's a baseline. And it looks like a divide line, which makes the equation, but it's not. It's a baseline. Because we all start with the same potential when we're born and the same ability. Now, what you find is the most successful people in the world. So I'll give you an example. If we take Roger Federer, who's an amazing tennis player, right? One of the most successful in history.
Of course.
And, yeah, and we look at Roger, and what we find out is that from a very, very young age, he played tennis and he's practiced. And obviously, throughout that practice from a very young age, he's consistently practiced, consistently put the hard work in, but also developed his mindset at the same time. So if we go through that equation, we go, Roger, does he love what he's doing? Yeah, absolutely. Has he had the aspiration to achieve the things that he set out to do? Well, the amount of Grand Slams that he's won proves that. Has he had the self-belief? Totally. He's had self-belief in his ability. The drive and motivation speaks for itself. He's turned up consistently over and over again at tournaments. Does he have the right support network? Well, Roger will talk about his coach, and he will talk about his support team as being really important to his success. So even though it's a one-man sport, it's actually a team sport to Roger. You then go resilience. Well, he's been written off that many times, Roger. He's still playing at a very old age, and he's won Wimbledon, come back and won Wimbledon. And then we go to the learning agility. He does consistently look for new ways of doing things, to the point that even after all the Grand Slams he'd won, he looked at his backhand and how he was going to improve it, and new ways of thinking about his backhand to become a better tennis player. And obviously we know that with that, Roger's got that growth mindset that goes with it, the adaptable and positivity. And it's just taking you through the mindset equations to use somebody who's very, very successful, who's worked very hard at what they do with the right mindset through this mindset equation to be successful. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That was a very fitting example that you used. Thank you so much. So what we have gathered so far is basically that you have kind of based your business around this book as well. So can you just tell me and tell us and tell the audience, of course, a little bit about how you have done this and how you continuously do this?
Yeah, sure. So I'm gonna go back just one step, because if we think about the mindset equation, so the mindset equation, what it actually does is it gives you a structure for success. So if we understand that, a lot of people talk about a growth mindset being, if you've got a growth mindset, you're going to be successful. What we find is the most successful people actually combine these mindsets to be successful. So when I was thinking about my business, I was thinking, well, if there's a structure there that is very successful, how can I use that structure from a business perspective? So what I thought was that I need then the right structure or the right system to implement into my business. So the system that I currently have is based around the book and based around the mindset equation. So it's the book, it's then mindset assessment. So I've created a mindset tool, like a psychometric tool, where you can do mindset assessments. I've then got an online course, which is obviously can be run virtually as well, with groups, and also obviously face to face when we get back there. It's a podcast. I've got some great guests that have been on, and more guests to come, that support the learning around the mindset equation. There's also a mindset journal, which is like the workbook, but it's a product that as a standalone in itself, and then coaching. And then when you bring that whole system together, that gives me structure and a system to base my business on. And I do that for individuals, I do that for leaders, and I do it for organizations as well.
I think that's brilliant. Just implementing the whole thing to your business. That's fantastic. I love that. Okay, great. So finally, actually, we would like to ask you about personally why you read, what you think, what you're gaining from it, and also any few pieces of advice that you can have for, aspiring authors as well.
Yeah, sure. So did you say the first bit was what I read?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I read a few different things, to be fair, because I like to break things up. So I do read continually with the growth mindset. I'm reading self-development books. I've recently read a book called Rejection Proof, which is brilliant. I've just gone back. I'm reading some of the stuff of Napoleon Hill again. So I do, there's books that I've read previously that I will reread, and the reason I do that is for positive reinforcement. For me,
Why exactly do you read these kind of books? Like what do you gain from it? What are the benefits?
I just think that when you read this stuff, it just has such, even having the books lying around with the messages, the subliminal messages, makes a massive difference. Now, the advice that I would give to aspiring authors would be, there's two things that I'd say. Is the first one is don't put it off. Just write the book, because you can just write the book and then you can get it finessed and you can get it proofread and then it'll come together for you. And the other bit of advice that I'd give to any aspiring authors is, when writing a book, it feels like a mammoth task. But if you actually break it down, what I do is say, break it down, there's going to be 12 chapters. I've got an idea of what I'm going to write about. And then I just write it by quarters. So all I've got to do is write 3 chapters. That's it. That's all I focus on. I know it's all linked, and I know I can go back and link it. But if you do 3 chapters at a time, that's the way to write a book. Very, very practical there. But, if you've got the passion and you want to share your ideas, write the book.
That's brilliant. Also, we just have one question here from the audience. Would you mind taking it up?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
All right. Okay, so it says, hi, Paul, brilliant session. One question I have is how to consistently maintain a positive mindset even through the most negative of times.
Yeah, absolutely. It's difficult, and it's been really difficult for all of us. And I do go that,
especially with the whole pandemic, I think a lot of people are feeling anxious and suffering with themselves. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I do say there's been winners and there's been losers during the pandemic. So it's been a lot harder and a lot more difficult for those people who maybe are suffering a little bit more. So I do agree. I do think that if we look at life and we go that when we wake up in the morning, we can choose to be the best version of ourselves. So I would say that the best thing that you can do is wake up in the morning and go, no matter what I'm faced with today, I'm going to be the best version of myself. Now, I call a technique, it's called playing from a 10. So when I'm being the best version of myself, I'm a 10 out of 10. Now I know I can't be a 10 out of 10 all of the time. So I might wake up one day and I don't feel as good as what I normally do. Maybe I might feel a bit ill. So I'll look at myself and I'll go, well, if I can't be a 10 today, what's the best number that I can be? So if it's an 8, I've got to play from an 8 all day. And it's a simple technique that goes even during the day. If something gets on your nerves or you're feeling down, you go, well, actually, I've gone down to a 5. How do I get myself back to a 6, 7, and 8 to be able to get on and crack on with the day? And just saying to yourself, what would the best version of me do right now? And I just think that's a good way of helping yourself mentally through everything that's going on at this point in time.
Brilliant. I feel like that's some brilliant advice. All right, this was an extremely inspiring conversation, and I'm sure I'm going to read this book. Hands down, I will be reading this book, and I know all of our viewers, I know the whole audience will want to as well. So we'll be putting up the QR code shortly for the link to your book. And with that, actually, we have come to the end of our first author saga session, which is a part of Pick a Book session. Once again, Pick a Book is a book club. So what we do is we encourage the reading habit by getting all our participants to select a book, read and research on it thoroughly. And this basically helps to his or her to hone their own public speaking, communication, and presentation skills. By doing this, we not only inculcate the habit of reading, but also help to impart a wealth of knowledge. If you would like to be a part of Pick a Book, our community, if you would like to see Pick a Book in your region, please join our journey, and we are of inspiring people. It would be lovely to hear all of you. So please reach out to us on email, and we'll be eagerly looking forward to hearing from you. My name is Zainab Idris, and I'm here with Mr. Paul Koch, who is the author of 3 fantastic books so far. And thank you so much again, Paul, for joining us this evening and sharing your insights. It was a really extremely brilliant session.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All right, so I think we can wrap up. Thank you so much again. All right, take care.
Thank you. Take care now. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you so much.